This is Trend Following Radio, where great thinking comes alive. Nobel Prize winners, legendary traders, best-selling authors, and the pros that know what drive us irrational human beings. I am your host, Michael Covel. Not filtered, raw, honest. That's my passion. Before I jump into my guest today, I want to discuss a really cool sketch by Hugh McLeod at gapingvoid.com. On one side of the ledger, the left-hand side, he says information. On the right-hand side, he says knowledge. On the information side, it's a series of random circles, some filled with purple, some filled with green, completely random. On the right-hand side, under knowledge, are the same random purple and green circles, except they're now connected with lines. There's connective tissue. I thought it was a great sketch, and I know Hugh did not intend it this way, was probably not thinking of this, but it's a great sketch about fundamental analysis. You can have all of the data, all of the details, but they don't necessarily connect to give you something. Just think about that. My guest today, Meir Statman, professor of finance at Santa Clara University, a behavioral finance expert. His recent book, What Investors Really Want. Meir goes into, as any great professor of behavioral finance would and should, what drives? What drives decision-making, and how does that decision-making affect markets? It's his life's work. Listen up. I'm sure you're going to learn something.
Hello.
Hey, Meir. How are you?
How are you?
Good.
Apologies, I just stepped out and didn't watch the clock.
Yeah, it's quite all right. You're taking some time. I appreciate it. So let me jump right in. Your career, where you've gone, am I summing it up correctly to say that for you, your career excitements, how do we make decisions and how are these decisions reflected in markets?
Well, yes. My passion is really to make sense of the world of finance. And that, of course, involves how we make decisions and how they're reflected in financial markets. And when I look around, of course, there are many things that just don't fit together. And I try to see if I can rearrange them such that they do fit.
A big picture issue, which I thought was interesting in your book, What Investors Really Want. And it's not just money, is it? They want other things besides just the utilitarian aspect of money, which I don't think I want more than just money out of the markets. Maybe I don't know myself well enough, but I can definitely see how other people, for sure. I mean, I know people that love the excitement and all that kind of stuff. So I can see those other motivations. What do you talk about the idea, big picture, that people are motivated that the markets are more than just money?
Well, if you ask people, why do you invest? Or what do you expect from your investments? They say, well, that's a silly question. Of course, I expect one thing and one thing only, and that is to make money. But of course, the next question is, what is the money for? Why is it that people who have $1 billion strive to have another billion? They already have more houses that they can count. They surely are not going to have bigger steaks because they're on a diet. And so you have to really figure out that for people with $1 billion, it must be issues of status. Sometimes, and when we talk about status, we're talking about respect. We're talking about self-respect and respect of other people. And so you will hear rich people say something like, well, money is a symbol of my achievements. What they really mean is that it makes them feel good. It increases their self-esteem, and it increases their esteem in the eyes of others. And you can see that in the United States, in particular, in the pattern of philanthropy. That is, rich people donate to universities and hospitals and museums, and then their names are placed on a building, and so it is called Lucas Hall or whatever it is, to signify that. And so they pay money to buy status. For people who are not as wealthy, we are talking about just plain middle class people, money is not just for money, it is for taking care of family. It is for saving for retirement. It is for feeling good today, even if they are in their 30s, just knowing that they are on track to retirement, knowing that if the car breaks down, they'll be able to replace it. These are some of the things that matter once you go beyond what is it for. It's for money. But then what is the money for? And sometimes we are willing to sacrifice money for those other things. Of course, we sacrifice money when we give it to a university that places our name on a building. We also sacrifice money when we, for example, invest in socially responsible funds that have lower returns than other funds. And we sacrifice money when we enjoy the game of trading. You know, we know from many studies that people who trade the most lose the most, and yet they make money. If I might go on, I will just say, think about golf, which I talk about in the book. Nobody is going to say that you make money playing golf unless you are a professional. People pay a lot of money to play golf. Why? Because they enjoy it. Well, to my mind, trading to lots of people is the equivalent of golf. It is just that it is legitimate to say, when it comes to golf, I pay a lot of money because I enjoy it. And it is not legitimate, it seems, to say, I trade. I know I'm losing money, but I enjoy it.
Meir, let me go into some specific examples. You've got some really nice color in your work that I thought was a lot of it that I relate to. I see much of it in my own work, but I thought you used some examples in some different ways that maybe people don't expect, or maybe they don't want to think about. And you went to the Madoff example, and I thought what was interesting is you really took to task, to some degree, the clients of Madoff, the clients that all said, well, we never could have known there was a problem. We were fooled. And you kind of point out, hold on, that you might say that, but you really can't fall on that sword.
Yeah, I think that they say that about people who fall for con games, that it is really their greed that is helping them fall into that trap. That is, if somebody stops you on the street and says, here is a thick bundle of money that I just found, and I'm just going to share it with you, and I just want you to deposit it in your checking account. Well, you know, a greed would say, wow, there are many thousands of dollars in this bundle. But if you stop for a moment and think, why would somebody stop you in the street and offer you thousands of dollars? Why would somebody write an email from Nigeria and offer you many, many millions? And when people don't stop and ask that, then they fall. And so Madoff is a perfect example. That is, what people should have asked is, if somebody offers me high returns and low risk, if somebody actually offers me that, I put down the phone, okay? because I know that is going to be a con, or in some cases it might well be the truth, but so I'm going to give up some opportunities for phenomenal returns with low risk, but I will not fall into that trap, whereas others go for what looks like wonderful opportunities, and they end up not asking, why is it that somebody is offering it to me? How is it that they can have high returns with low risk? And then they fall. I know I use an example that I heard from my mom about a woman who borrowed a spoon and returned the following morning to bring a teaspoon with it, and said that the teaspoon was born off the spoon the night before. The following day she borrowed the cart, and then came the following morning to say that the cart died. And people who believe that spoons give birth to teaspoons should not be surprised when carts die.
Hey, I should add, you list the details in your work of the Nigerian scam. I think it's over $100 million a year. So maybe people think, oh, nobody responds to that, but a lot of money is given to Nigerian 20-something scam artists on telephones.
That is right. That is right. It is amazing that I still see, of course, those emails where Mobutu died and left me $20 million or something, and obviously what they say really is that it costs them nothing to flood my email box and yours. And there are just enough fools who say, well, maybe this one seems just right. Again, if you are greedy and if you don't ask yourself, who is the other side of the trade? Why are they offering it to me? Then you're going to fall for it. And many people fall. Many people, I mean, if you just look at active management, I invest exclusively in low-cost index funds, and my typical colleague does the same in academia. Why is it that people trade so much? Why is it that they believe that they can easily beat the market, or that a manager can help them beat the market after he or she takes their cut? Either they don't get it, they don't really understand that trading is playing tennis against an opponent on the other side, who might be an insider, or they're just overconfident in their ability to beat that opponent. I say, I never played Roger Federer. Well, so I guess that my chances of beating him are 50-50.
It's interesting. I saw this quote for the first time recently where Warren Buffett said that it was not greed that made the world go round. It was envy. And I'd be curious to your perspective there. But, in some of your work, you kind of go the direction of talking about framing. And so let's say somebody generates a 10% return on a year. Instead of viewing that, some people are going to say, hey, that's plus 10%. That's great. However, some other people, and I go back to the Buffett comment right there, some other people might say, oh, that's a 20% loss because my neighbor made 30%.
That is right. That is right. And envy is a good word here. And even more, I would say something more neutral, like status seeking. That is, when I say that I envy my neighbor because he has a fancier car, what I'm saying is that he has a status that is higher than mine, and I aspire to that status. Now, we are all status seekers. We just do it in different ways. And the difference really between people who manage to pause and be happy and people who could never be happy is that people who manage to be happy say, 10%, wow, I never expected that. Or I never expected when I was in my 20s to have so much money now. whereas other people say, boy, yes, I do have a good amount of money, but my neighbor has more. And so they don't pause to be happy. And so just knowing when enough is enough is really an art that not all master.
I think this goes right into your world, though, too. And I'm calling you from Asia today, and a word that I learned this year was kiasu, Singaporean Chinese phrase for a fear of losing, of missing out. And it's amazing how much that drives. I mean, it's a big driver in Singapore, and other cultures, they might have a different way of describing it. But this fear of losing, the fear of missing out, is a really hard driver. People are really reluctant to accept the idea of sunk cost, aren't they?
Yeah, there is sunk cost. So first, when we talk about missing out, people are afraid of falling behind. People always watch people who are just wealthier than they are and just poorer than they are, and they dread the possibility that the ones that are poorer than they would catch up to them, and they strive to overtake the ones that have more. The issue of the reluctance to realize losses, to come to terms with losses, is a bit distinct from that. I think that we always have that sense that if we bought something for 100, expecting it to go to 120, and instead it goes to 60, that if we just realize that loss, it would expose us into being stupid for having bought it in the first place. And so we'll feel stupid and we'll feel regret. And so we tend to postpone it. And that applies to many aspects of life. One woman who heard me speak about that, she said, now I understand why I did not terminate my marriage 5 years earlier.
Yes, indeed. To kind of flip to another topic, and there's so many. It's your work is dense, and there's a lot of different areas we can go in a limited amount of time. And I just picked some of my favorite areas that I thought the audience would really like hearing your perspective on. Mental accounting. This is right in the sweet spot of where people often go wrong, isn't it?
Well, yes, it is. It is a place where people go right. And many times go wrong. That is, God planted mental accounting in us, or evolution planted mental accounting in us, not to spite us, but to help us. So mental accounting, for example, is reflected in keeping our money in different pockets. That is, we have money for retirement, and money for vacation, and money for educating the kids, and money for getting rich with a lottery ticket. That might well be useful. And it is useful, for example, in creating barriers such that we are not going to spend money that is in an account that is dedicated for our children's education on buying a sports car today and disappointing the kid later. So that is useful. It becomes less than useful. It becomes harmful when we get to misuse it. And so when I buy that stock for 100, then it goes to 60, and I have this mental account that I created for it, where I'm going to feel like an idiot unless I sell it for more than 100, and then I throw good money after bad. That really is a bad thing to do. And in those circumstances, I would like to have either a rule or a good friend or a spouse who's going to say, hey, Meir, this is spilled milk. This is spilled stock. Just get over it and move on. Close that account.
Meir, I've got a few more topics I want to discuss with you, but I wonder if I might get you to paint a picture. You've gone down, this is your life's career going into these topic areas, and we're only giving it a kind of a cursory analysis right now in limited time. But what drove you? What were your early influences that brought you to this place where you were going into the behavioral finance world?
Well, I was always interested in how people behave and what makes them tick. And I suppose everyone is. You grow up as a kid and you're trying to figure out, why is it that somebody is my friend and somebody is not? Why is it that people behave the way they do? For many people, it is just the usual part of life, and then they move on to become physicians or lawyers or whatever they do. For me, it turned out to be a profession. That is, I get to explore why it is that I do what I do, and why is it that other people do what they do. That is, I find it really odd that some people in finance are able to separate their everyday experience from their insights about their work. So they behave as normal people, just as you described yourself, and yet when it comes to how they model people, they expect them to be rational. Well, it makes no sense. And so I use myself as my first laboratory. I ask myself, how do I behave? And instead of being mad, I just chuckle at myself and say, hey, that is pretty normal and kind of interesting, and that is not unusual. Is there something that is systematic about it? Is there something that can be generalized, that can offer insights to other people? And so that has always been something that is trying to figure out what makes people go, what is it that people want, has always been with me. And I'm just one of those fortunate people who get to do for pay what other people do for free.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff. Good stuff. So let me get you to put your good professorial cap on. And one of the areas in your work that I liked was I like the distinction, because sometimes people, they get so political, but you took it more to kind of a utility factor in my mind, which is you kind of said it's libertarianism versus paternalism, and with many shades in between. Why don't you describe that for the audience, this idea of libertarianism versus paternalism?
Well, the question really is whether sometimes we should let someone play our parent, even if we are grown-ups. And you can see the different societies answer it differently. So, for example, in Australia, there is mandatory retirement savings. You like it or not, you have to contribute to retirement savings. I suggested that we do the same thing in the United States, and when it appeared in some articles on the internet, lots of reactions were not just negative, but they were really angry. Professor Statman, you don't really understand America. We are the land of the free. Well, what happens is that for people like me, I imagine like you, for most people who are responsible enough, who have enough self-control, even though they can spend the money today, they know that there's going to be tomorrow, and they save. Well, libertarianism works for me and for you, but it does not work for other people. It does not work for people who lack self-control. And then the question is, should the state get and do it for them? Well, we have it in the form of Social Security, for example. You cannot opt out of Social Security. And so there's kind of a fine balance, and that balance varies across countries by culture. And, so I would say we do need mandatory retirement savings. So in this sense, I'm paternalistic. But then I say, if people want to drink 30-ounce sodas, sugared sodas, that's fine. I'm not going to be a parent here and say you cannot do that. And different people in different societies decide what the right line is between paternalism and libertarianism.
Yeah, it's interesting. We sometimes really do have this, well, this is America, we're all free, the libertarian aspect, which is, I like to think myself, falls into that category. But then it seems like when things go wrong, perhaps like the fall of 2008, forget individuals, the largest banking concerns in America all of a sudden need a parent and in the form of a bailout. So it's interesting how it happens.
Yes, that's another thing that is really interesting about people. First, they say, I want to be free. I want to cross the street on my own. Then when a car hits them, they say, where was the government to stop that? And so some of the victims of Madoff wanted the government to pay their losses. And, they said that that's because the government, the SEC, did not catch Madoff in time. And so they expected the government to do the work of a parent. That really is just who we are. That we like to do our thing very much like kids, and then we expect to be free of any negative consequences of that. Banks do the same thing. That is, they want to be free to do what they want, but they want to be bailed out when things go down. So you can hear it in my voice. I just chuckle at myself and I chuckle at other people who do that. And so when people get all excited about this is the land of the free, I say you don't really feel that way when things go some way that you don't like.
Yeah. I was watching tonight a video from Ginger Rogers, 1933, singing We're in the Money. And I was laughing because in your book, you do go into the idea of like, hold on, there's a lot of literature writing from nearly a century ago, mapping out the same issues and foibles and all the different things that we deal with. And human nature, when it comes to markets, hasn't really changed. We haven't gotten better at this, have we?
No, we have not. We have some tools we didn't have then, but of course this desire to have high returns with low risk, that has always been with us. The desire for status has been with us since we were created. All of that has been with us, and so differences might well be in the structures. So 100 years ago, we didn't have Social Security. People of course were mad, and some people are still mad that we have that, and that the government forces us to pay into it. But if you think about people 100 years ago who got old, they were destitute, ill, perhaps dependent on their family if the family could help them. But Social Security was not created as a luxury. It was created as a necessity because it was seen that many people end up destitute in old age. And the same applies to other things, whether it is Medicare or health insurance more generally. And so, in this sense, I think that the world is getting better. That the balance between libertarianism and paternalism kind of shifts properly to account for people's needs. And in this sense, perhaps hard to say that, but perhaps politicians are smarter than citizens.
Oh, wow. I know you'll probably get like all kinds of hate mail for that too, huh?
Yeah. You know how it is that as kids always say, talk to 16-year-old kids and they'll tell you that their parents are stupid. And then when they get to be 22, hopefully they realize that it is they who are stupid and their parents were pretty wise.
I guess I'm unfortunate that I grew up in the Washington, D.C. area, so I have a hard time having many things positive to say. When I feel like sometimes I've seen too far behind the scenes, but I like to, deep down as Americans, I think we all want to believe that politicians are somehow trying to do the right thing. But We'll just have to wait in time and look back in history and judge. But hey, Meir,
that is right.
Listen, what's your book? What Investors Really Want? They can find that on Amazon. Where is the best place for people to come find out more information about you and perhaps check out some papers, some of your other work?
Well, other than the book, of course, if they just put my name in Google or some other search engine, they will just find the first thing they'll find is my website, and there they will find articles that I have written, and so that is probably the best way. I speak in public gatherings on occasion. Sometimes people write about it, and so on. And there they'll find even my email address if they want to reach me.
Well, I definitely recommend the book. You put out some issues that make you think. And, one more fun one that I had to have loved is that you sometimes people probably hear about markets and whatnot and astrology. And you point out, and I think it was one of the directors or one of the fund managers for the state of California retirement system, one of the pension funds, and he was actually using astrology. One of the things he was using.
That is right. Yeah, Orange County and the manager and that county went bankrupt. But people do that again. Lots of people believe that spoons can give birth to teaspoons. And so astrology is not that far from it.
Yeah. Well, listen, hey, Meir, it was good chatting, and I appreciate you coming on today.
Sure. Good to speak with you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye. I see a time when those awake will understand how to make money in up, down, and surprise markets. Whether new trader or experienced, college student or financial advisor, protecting against a crash or just trying to make a lot of money, trend following offers everyone an answer in uncertain times. To get started immediately, send me an email, michael@covel.com. I will send you the right trend following steps to take along with my free video. But if you want to buy and hold, trust the government and trust Wall Street, this is absolutely not for you.